Hey everybody, it's Jason Collins, and we are going to do a couple of Photoshop beauty edits today. But before we get started, and in case you guys are watching this on YouTube or on another group on Facebook, I have decided to, not that I've decided to, I have started a Facebook group called Photography Tutorials for Beginners. And this is sort of going to be the the I don't know, library, if you will, of videos that I put out, and then also an opportunity to get feedback from viewers and to find out what it is that you guys would like to see covered. And as you can tell, it is a we have a whopping one member, and that would be me. So if you see this, this will be a good measure of how responsive people are to the group. Go and join, and be sure to make a post and let me know what sort of tutorial content you would like to see. And I am working on a new, working with a new screen recorder, and it is a little bit different than what I'm used to, so some of this may be a little bit clunky. But let's see if we can get switched over to Photoshop and get started. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and we are going to do a simple beauty edit on this image as well as this image. We do a lot of headshots in our photography business, so this is something that we do quite often. And if you are looking to get into headshot photography or portrait photography or senior photography, weddings, there's a wide range of genres in photography that would require you to be able to do simple beauty retouching. So that's what we're going to do today. And I will give one quick bit of information. The background that I'm using on this image is actually one of those Mylar space blankets that I crumpled up and literally taped to the wall behind her, and I think it gives a really nice mosaic random background pattern. And we shot this at f4.5, so even at f4.5 we're getting some really nice bokeh circles that are coming off the highlights. So when you're setting up background stuff, there are tons of places that you can go. Kate's Backdrops, they're wonderful. We have some of their stuff. Denny Manufacturing, which is probably the gold standard, we have some of their stuff. We have tons and tons of backgrounds. We use a lot of seamless paper. But you can also think outside the box. Thrift stores are great places to go and find things that you can repurpose for backdrops. We have even taken like sequined material that we got at like Michael's or the fabric department at Walmart and affixed them to boards that we use for backgrounds for our glamour stuff. And maybe I'll make a video showing you guys that because it's pretty interesting. But anyway, today we're going to be working with these two gorgeous girls, and we are going to do a simple beauty edit using Photoshop. And so, it would be great if we all had wonderful, beautiful, perfect skin. Unfortunately, some of us are blessed with great skin, and some of us are opportunities for photographers to learn retouching. So that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to start out with the spot healing brush tool. Now, the spot healing brush tool has some pros and cons. Like everything, there's a compromise somewhere along the line. The spot healing brush tool, if you overdo it, it will remove a lot of skin texture from your image, so you have to be really careful with that. What I like to do is I like to make my tool just about the size or a little bit bigger than the imperfection that I'm going to work on, and then I just kind of give it a little dab like that, and that cleans it up really, really well. The great thing about the spot healing brush tool is you can use it for so many things. If you've got a random hair, you just paint right down that, and the hair is then gone. And so then, once you get your brush to the right size and you get into it, you really it's a matter of going through and finding the things that you don't like and getting rid of them. Now, as a general rule, I don't remove anything that is going to be on a client's face in 2 weeks. So if you have a mole, or if you have a scar, or if you have, I joke with people and say, if you got in a knife fight in Reno and you have a scar on your cheek, you need to own it. You need to keep that, because that is part of you and part of who you are. So we do just sort of basic red spot blemish removal. And then also, one of the things that we find that we do quite often is we will clean up the eyebrow area. Now, there's a couple different ways to do that, and probably my favorite way is to use the patch tool and make sure that you've got it on normal. And then really, I'm going to zoom in just a touch more. Really, all you need to do is sort of pick the area that you want to clean up, and it's just as simple as this. And then you just move that over onto a place until it looks good, and then you get a really clean look. And then you can use your spot healing brush tool as well to sort of clean up some of this area around here. Now, this is no substitute for your clients not having their brows done before they come in. This young lady has helped us out with a lot of video and photo stuff in the past, and her name is Alyssa, and she is 15 years old. And it just so happens that I had her come in one day for another photo project, and while she was in, I said, hey, let's do a couple of headshots since I've got some new lighting stuff that I'm working on. And so she was kind enough to do that. So we didn't really expect her to be super gorgeous camera ready, but we definitely appreciate her helping us out. And so you just go through and you look for specks, spots, makeup irregularities, whatever is on the skin that you don't think your client would want to look at in a 30 by 40 portrait hanging on their wall for the next 30 years. You can also obviously use it to clean up things like lipstick. Whoop, what happened there? So do that. Oh, I grabbed the brush instead of the spot healing brush. Whatever you think that your clients are not going to want to see hanging on their wall for the next 30 years. Makeup on teeth, that's a big deal with females. We do a lot of cleanup of that kind of stuff. Spots and imperfections on teeth. That's just one of the things that we do. And then one of the other things I like to do is I like to go in and clean up, like lipstick blobs or whatever. Now you can get into this in super fine detail and spend hours and hours and hours working on stuff that there's no point in doing, right? It's just not going to matter. So spend a lot of time zooming out and zooming in. And a lot of people will say never to retouch at a higher magnification than 100%, because chances are if you can't see it at 100%, it's not going to be noticed online or on a print or portrait or anything like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Once you've kind of got this where you want it, then you can use one of Photoshop's awesome and amazing tools, and that is skin softening. Now, this girl doesn't need a ton of skin softening, but I'm going to show you what. And now once I'm done with that, I probably should have duplicated my layer, but with the spot healing brush tool and the stuff we've done, I'm okay with doing that, with having that as a destructive edit. It doesn't bother me. Okay, so with that said, we've sort of got most of our standout things that need to be corrected. Like I said, you can spend the rest of your life going over blemishes and stuff like that. So you have to sort of draw the line somewhere. So I'm at the point now where I would normally stop. So on this stage. So now what we do is we go to Filter, Neural Filters, and that'll open up. And if you guys aren't familiar with the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 updates from Photoshop, they have done a really good job with their artificial intelligence and some of their almost one-click filter options that are out there. So neural filters, we're looking for skin smoothing. It automatically selects the face, and literally all you have to do is just click on the switch to turn it on. In the most recent updates, it processes on device, where it used to process on the cloud, which was a little bit slower. Normally what I do for young girls is I leave the blur on 50%, and I don't really do anything with the smoothness. It's just how I do things. Your mileage may vary. You can do whatever you want to do with that. And it is a good idea to let Photoshop know if you're happy with the way that the filters are working, because these are sort of beta, and the more feedback they can get from you, the better it is, and the easier it is for them to make improvements. So anyway, put this on 50. You can run it up to, to whatever you want, and I'll show you why it doesn't really matter at this point how much of the filter you apply, because we're going to adjust that layer in the next step. So I usually keep it at 50. Again, 75, it doesn't matter, whatever, that's fine. Click OK, and right down here, output to new layer. That's what I always do. Output to new layer. OK. So now right here, we have our layer with our skin smoothing, and we can do before and after. Before and after. And you can see that we've got way too much skin smoothing. And that's something, let me cover this real quick. Too much skin smoothing makes your photos look bad. It makes your models look like they have Barbie doll plastic skin. It's just not a good thing. So what I normally do on this is zip the opacity of that layer down to 0. So now our before and our after look exactly alike, because we have 0 impact of this skin smoothing layer on our face. And then I like to move it up to about 25%, and then take a look at it and say, okay, do we like that? 25%, maybe just a touch more. Let's run it up to about 35%, 37. That's fine. Before and after. It's just a touch of skin smoothing, and not enough that we're losing texture or anything like that. It's just, this is before and this is after. It's just a hint. It's just a touch of it, not a ton of it. Okay? So at this point, we're done with our skin smoothing and our blemish removal. So really now the only thing left to do is to work on eyes and smile. And the way I do that is typically at this point, because I'm done with everything, I do Control-Alt-Shift-E. That combines everything into one composite layer, everything that's below this. The work that we did on blemish removal is combined. The work that we did on skin smoothing is combined, and all of that is combined into this layer. Now, what I like to do is I like to come down here and create a curves adjustment layer. Okay, so we're going to brighten the eyes and we're going to brighten the smile. And most of the time I can get away with doing this with one layer, one adjustment layer. If not, then we can do 2. And I may show you 2 just because. In fact, I'll do that. So we're going to call this one eyes. Okay, and then we'll make another curves adjustment layer that we will call, well, smile. Okay, so now we're going to go to our eyes adjustment layer, and I'm going to zoom in so we can see both of our eyes really well. And then I'm going to come up here into the highlight zone, and I'm going to raise my exposure. Again, I'm going to raise my exposure beyond where I would want it to be. So I've got about twice as much adjustment on this as what I think I'm ever going to need. Now, we're only looking at the eyes. Of course, it raised exposure on the entire face, and that's fine. We click, make sure we're on our mask on that exposure layer. We're going to do Control-I to invert the mask. Now, everything is hidden. We're going to grab us a brush. In fact, we're going to zoom in on this eye so we can work directly on this eye. Okay? We're going to grab us a brush. We're going to make sure that white is our foreground color on our brush. and we're going to make sure that our opacity is set to 100 and we're on a soft round brush. That's what we want for this. And then we're just going to start inside the eye, and we are just going to paint in our lightening effect right inside the eye. And then what I usually do, once I get it painted in all on the inside, just like this, I overlap just a tiny little bit and bring the lightening right out onto the eyelid and just into the edge of the lashes. Okay, so that's one eye. Let's slide right over here to the other eye. Okay, good deal. Now then, oops, there we go. Now, same thing, just paint right inside with your soft brown brush at 100% opacity. Get all of the inside of the eye, and then come back and just get right around the edge of the eye and the lashes. Now, I'm going to show you guys the before, which is here, and the after, which is here. Way too much. Okay, this is a good time to talk about alien eyes. When you get the whites of the eye to the point where they are super duper white, that's too much. You need to tone that down. And we're going to do that in just a moment. But I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and show you guys what the next thing I do with the eyes. Same thing, grab your brush, make your brush bigger. And I get about this big. Basically, about the size of the iris of the eye is where you want to be. Okay. Then I turn the opacity down to 20%. Okay. And then I start right outside the eye, and I just lighten right around the eye, just a little bit. Same thing over here. Just bring a little bit of lightness into the eye socket. Now, move out. We're going to look again at our before and our after. Okay. Now, do this exactly the same way that we did the skin smoothing earlier. Turn your opacity on that layer down to 0. And then start raising your opacity until your eyes just begin to pop a little bit. And that's probably going to be somewhere in the 40% range. Okay, we're at 39%. And then if we do a before and an after, it's just a tiny hint of pop in the eye. Again, before and after. Not enough to give them alien eyes, just enough to bring a little bit of light into the eye. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing on the smile this time, because we have a separate oh, my brain just went blank. Curves adjustment layer here. So what we're going to do on this one, same thing we did before, we're going to grab our highlight section up here, and we're going to pull it up until we've got a super white smile, okay, more than we need. Click on our mask, Control-I to invert the mask, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to zoom in here a little bit, and we are going to grab us a soft brown brush. This time we're going back to 100% on our opacity, and we're going to get a brush size about like that, and we're just going to paint over the teeth with, you know, you don't have to be super duper surgically accurate here, but it's usually a good idea not to make the gums look super pink, and because that sort of makes the person look anemic, and we don't want to do that. We want them to look healthy and happy, and so we're just looking to raise the exposure on the teeth, and this is just going to get right in here and swoop around, and we do this on each tooth. Even down here on the bottom, we'll make our brush a little bit smaller, and we'll come right in here, and we will just get right in there, just right in there, like that. A bit bigger brush, do this tooth, just right in here. Okay, scoot over and up just a little bit and get these last two. I don't think that Photoshop edits should make people look, oh I won't say cartoonish, but I don't think Photoshop edits should make people look different than they do in real life. So if you see someone and they don't look like they do, their profile picture or their headshot or their LinkedIn or whatever doesn't look like them, then that's too much editing. And people can really go overboard really easily on eyes and smiles. So now we've got it done. Again, we'll do the before and after, super bright, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to dial our opacity down to 0, and then we're going to bring it up to about 32% before, after, okay? So there we go. And really on a portrait like this, that's about all I would do to have a deliverable, okay? I might, she's in her cheerleader uniform, so there's some things I might do if it were a formal portrait. I might clean up this hair along here, but because this is just sort of a fun, casual thing that we did, I think that's okay for this. So with that said, this one's done. Now we're going to go over here and do this one because we've got a couple of different challenges in this one. This one is on a stark white background, or it's supposed to be a stark white background. And so we're going to do a couple of things differently on this one. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to go into Adobe Camera Raw. Now, if you're new to photography, or if you've been shooting pictures for a while, but you've been using the JPEG function on your camera, if you've been saving your images as JPEG in the camera, I really, really encourage you to not do that. I really encourage you to shoot in RAW. It's just going to give you a lot more editing latitude. It's going to give you a lot more data in the file in order for you to work with it when you bring it into Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever. So I recommend shooting in RAW. And what I'm going to show you guys here is also with your histogram, okay? I'm a fan of exposing to the right, which means overexpose your images just a little bit. And we can talk about the data in an overexposed image versus the data in an underexposed image. And the histogram is something that you need to work with, and don't fear the histogram. So here's what we're doing. All of this highlight data that's over here at the edge, we need to shift over a little bit. So we've lost some highlight data, and so we need to recover that a little bit. So the easiest way to do that is you just take your exposure slider and you slide it over until, okay, we don't want to lose data up here. We don't want these to clip out, right? We don't want to extend this peak beyond the edge here, but we want to get as close to this edge as we possibly can. So if you ever wonder how much should I adjust my exposure, watch your histogram and see. So as I move further to the right, we start to clip right in here. Okay, so let's back it down until we're just right there on the edge. Okay, so that's about as much exposure as we can do, just a little more than half a stop, and it's doing such a nice job. Okay, now you can also adjust your exposure is impacting the entire image. If you come down here now that you've got that done, and you can get away with nudging your whites over a little bit until, see, it's still creeping up a little bit, but we're not quite clipping everything out, and we can ease this over to about 35 is going to be good. And then you can always also crush your blacks down a little bit, and if you'll notice over here on the side, as we pull blacks down, that area indicator in the histogram will start climbing up a little bit. And all that does is just deepens your black area. We don't have a ton of shadows in this, but I'll pull it down all the way to give you an extreme example, right? But if we pull our black point down a little bit, it's just gonna give us a richer image, okay? And then you can also deal with texture if you want to have a more textured image. With portraits, we typically don't do that. In fact, if you really want to soften the image, you can pull texture down, but that's going to make your overall image softer. Totally up to you. I don't really do much of that with portrait work. Same thing with clarity. Clarity is going to bring more more contrast in, so you're really going to separate your light areas and your dark areas a little bit. And you can see all this happening in the histogram. As you move things, your histogram is going to change. For this particular image right here, I might bump clarity up like maybe this much, just to give a little bit more depth to some of the shadows and stuff on her face. At this point, I'm done with this. This is all of the adjustments that I'm going to make in Adobe Camera Raw. So let's get into Photoshop with this and see what we've got. On our background over here, first thing I notice is there's a little bit of a blemish in our background. And so we're going to do some of the same things that we did in the other video in terms of some of the tools that we're going to use. And we're just going to lasso this area with the patch tool, and we're going to nudge it over in there. Now we have a nice clean background to work with. We're going to zoom in on her face, and we're going to do basically the same things that we did in the previous video. We are going to clean up some eyebrows, we're going to get rid of some blemishes, and we're going to use the same tools that we used over there before. We're going to take our patch tool, and we're going to lasso this, and we're going to move it up here. Oops, edit, undo, deselect, edit, undo patch selection, and change our patch from normal to content aware. And scooch it over here, and that's going to give us a much cleaner, much nicer thing there. And we grab our spot healing brush tool, and same thing as before. I'll zoom in just a touch here. Okay, so same thing as before. Make sure that your spot healing brush tool is just slightly bigger than the blemishes that you're planning to work with, and then just dab and dot around and clean up hair and whatever you need to do in order to make this image look the way you want it to look, but at the same time not make your subject look unlike themselves. When you do this, when you do retouching, their mom should be able to look at the picture and not know that it's been retouched, because we're not really, ooh, that didn't work. I moved that way further off of the skin tones. Change dramatically from one part of the face to another, especially when you're using lighting. So you have to be very careful, because you can make it look weird pretty easily. Okay, so that part looks good. And then, you know, cleaning up things like mascara spots here and there, you know, just little things that are not appealing or flattering, we can get rid of. This picture, the thing that I want to focus on mostly in this one is her lipstick, because this one is where we focus most of our effort on in this particular image, is with lipstick. And like I said before, there's a couple of easy things to fix, a couple of globs here and there that need to be sorted out. But this area up here is where I want to show you lipstick outside the lip line. Super easy to deal with, right? We use the rubber stamp tool, which is right over here, clone stamp tool. I call it rubber stamp tool. And the easiest way to do this is to move right outside the area, hold down Alt, and grab a sample from that area. So we grabbed a sample from right here, and if you'll notice, when I hover over the area, it shows me what we're going to paint. So we have a sample from right up here. We're going to simply paint that sample right around here and clean up that lip line. Okay, so that was where we had too much lipstick outside the lip line. Now in here, we have a little spot where we don't have enough lipstick on the lip line. We do the same thing. We move right down here to the area where, just outside of where we're going to be working, hold down Alt, grab a sample, and then we just paint lipstick right in there. And if you sort of dab with your mouse, you'll do better than if you just paint. See, if you just paint, it's gonna, what's a good way to say this? Every time you let go of your mouse button, it's starting your sample over, and it adds a bit more randomness to what you're doing. So just keep that in mind, that you need to take your finger off the mouse button multiple times while you're using the clone stamp tool. So clone stamp tool is awesome for cleaning up things. It just works really, really well. And again, you can get super into this and clean up every single little thing. Be sure you zoom out quite a bit so that you can see what you're doing. So now we've got the majority of the blemishes. Let's check the chin really quickly because I don't think we did much work on the chin. Yeah, we need to do a little bit of spot healing brush stuff down here just to even out some of this stuff that's going on here. Not too much. One of the great things about shooting young, fresh faces is there's not a ton of retouching that you have to do. They all have pretty great skin. So just some things here and there. And now that we've got that done, okay, we do the same thing we did before. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my background layer just because. Filter, neural filters, and we're going with skin smoothing. We're not going to mess with these. I did earlier, but just as an example for you. So we're going to say, okay, that's going to give us a layer with skin smoothing. We'll show you the before and the after, okay? And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to adjust our opacity, dial it down to 0, and then start raising it until we get to where we want it to be. And I know just from my taste and from doing these over and over that I'm going to like it somewhere in the 40% range. And it's just, so this is before and this is after. And it's just enough to sort of smooth out a little bit of the skin texture, but not so much that that it looks weird. Okay, so there's that part. So we're done with that. So now we're going to work on the eyes. For this one, we don't have to worry about the smile. So we're going to Control Shift Alt E, combine all of our work into one layer. We're going to go down here. We're going to take a curves adjustment layer. We're going to grab our highlights. We're going to pull them up about right there. We're going to click on our mask, Control I to invert that layer. We're going to zoom in on the eye, do the same thing we did before, grab a brush, make sure it's at 100%, get our size of the brush up, and then we just paint inside the eye, paint inside, get all that done, and then just barely overlap onto the outside of the eye. Okay, same drill, second eye, paint right inside here, making sure we get all of that. When we're comfortable with all of that, overlap and just draw around the eye. Okay, then zoom out just a little bit. Okay, grab your brush again, dial your opacity down to 25%, and increase the size of your brush. Increase the size of your brush until it's about the size of the eye. Overlap a bit, and then just paint around the eye socket. And that's just going to give it a little bit of brightness inside that eye socket to make those eyes pop. Come right out here, around the eye socket, just like that. Okay, now let's zoom out. Okay, obviously too much. Before, after, same drill, dial this down to 0 and then come up to about 35% maybe. Let's see, off, on, great. So other than maybe a little bit of cropping, and I'll show you how I like to crop my headshots. We're really done here. I keep everything on a 4:5 crop because most of my customers wind up buying 8x10s or 16x20s, and that makes it really easy. Obviously, I'm shooting my camera in standard 3:2 aspect ratio. So all we do is we just crop this down. And I don't have a problem chopping off the top of somebody's head, especially on a headshot. And what I like to do is I like to take and put the convergence of the line of thirds right on an eye, just like that. Okay, I might nudge this down to the edge just to give us a little bit more. And her hair, I like what her hair is doing on this side, so I might pull in just a little bit more of that and do it just like this. And so that, friends and neighbors, is what I would deliver to a client as a finished headshot for this. Look, guys, I really appreciate the fact that you guys are interested in my tutorials, that you're engaging with me and participating on the various Facebook groups and stuff like that. Again, I invite you to join us on our new Facebook group, Photography Tutorials for Beginners, and drop us a note. Let us know what you would like to see covered in future videos. And as I've said many times before, I do this as an opportunity to give back to the community. I firmly believe that a rising tide lifts all ships, and the better you get at the art of photography and editing, the better it is for all of us. So God bless you guys. Have a great day. Tune in. Let's see what we get going next time. Bye-bye.